Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
So I guess we're ready to go.
Yep.
Okay. Today we discuss We're Lucky to Get Old with physician and professor Dr. Bill Thomas. 5 timeless ways to turn around your life at any age. The Portland Auto Show and Super Bowl 50. Welcome to Boomermale.com, the podcast for men 50 plus. Today's date is January 30th, 2016. And right now, you're here with yours truly, Mike Matthews, and
this is Tom Herring. How are you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing great today. Yesterday was a lot of fun. We went to the auto show. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Saw a number of cars that men 50 plus would like. Actually, men 15 plus would like. So, it's all over the place.
Yes.
And we have a few other things to talk about that are pretty interesting, actually. You have a lesson to talk about today. Did you have anything else that you want to talk about before? Something interesting the last day or two?
I'll tell you, I did go to a celebration of life service yesterday for my first ad agency boss. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in our podcast today. But you guys might be thinking, well, what the heck's, that's kind of a downer. And actually it was a real upper. This guy had an amazing life. He had a lot of people talking about him, told great stories. And believe it or not, I came out of that, that ceremony, that celebration, and pretty high, grateful that he was part of my life. And he touched a lot of people's lives. So anyway, I'll talk about that a little bit more as we get going today.
Okay, sounds great. Let's see. Why don't we go right away to the life lesson from 51 Life Lessons Every Boomer Male Should Know by Now. That's your book that you've had out for about 2-3 months now. And we've been reading a lesson each week. And this week, I think you have lesson number, what is it?
It's lesson number 9, Mike.
9.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me just read a little bit and kind of give you an idea what this one's all about. So this is lesson number 9, entitled Keep Moving Forward. And I'm just going to read the quote. Sometimes I don't read the quote that opens the chapter, and sometimes I do. And this is today. I think you might get a kick out of it. And the words basically say, just keep moving forward and don't give a shit about what anybody thinks. Do what you have to do for you. And that is from the actor Johnny Depp. All right. So many things in life can immobilize you. Heartache, financial jolts, career meltdowns, death. They can stop us right in our tracks. I'm beginning to think I'm an expert when it comes to numbers 1 and 4 above, with my second divorce and passing of my father both in the past 3 years. And while you feel you don't want to do anything but mourn these events, you know deep down that it is not how to spend the rest of your life. You need to get up, dust yourself off, and start moving forward. Anyway, that is kind of the first half of this chapter in the Boomermale life lessons, 51 life lessons. And we'll have the rest of this uploaded in an audio format here later today, tomorrow. So that is our life lesson. Keep moving forward.
Great. Well, keep moving forward. Always good words. Now that's just one of the 51 life lessons in the book, 51 Life Lessons Every Boomer Male Should Have Learned by Now. And that book is free on our website. So just go to the website, Boomermale.com. You can get a free PDF version of the book. It's 112 pages. And if you like it, or if you want a copy for yourself in Kindle format, you can go to Amazon. It's purchasable there in Kindle for $8.51. And you can also get a soft cover version in paper for $17.51 from Amazon. So you can get it in 2 different formats from Amazon. You get it in free PDF from us. So you can definitely go to that website. Actually, you know what? I want to mention one other thing. We hit a nice milestone this week. We had 50% growth this month over last month in our number of listeners. And what I'd like to say is thank you to all of the listeners. I'd also like to mention, hey, we love that kind of growth. And what we'd like to ask you to do is, if you like the podcast, mention it to a buddy of yours, get them started on it too, because we would love to see this grow even bigger. It's really nice being able to connect with folks and get some responses back from people. If you want to respond, we have our lessons tab on the website. Give us a lesson you learned or something you want to know about or hear about. We love having that kind of feedback. At the same time, you can respond to us right now on Facebook or on Twitter at Boomermale.com. Okay, so why don't we get into the stories for the week? This first one that we had was one that kind of came up in the news, and Professor Bill Thomas, physician as well, he says we're lucky if we get to be old, and that's true. I've always considered my grandparents, my I actually knew my great-grandmother. I always thought, man, they are really lucky. They're lucky to get old. And this Dr. Bill Thomas says the same thing. Now, you knew a lot more about him. He's not as old as we are. He's only 56.
Well, so there you go. Yeah, he's a youngster.
He's not ancient yet. He's just old. But he says a lot of this whole I'm getting old and everything else is a lot of bull that we need to think about it in different ways. He also talks about a third phase of life, which I was happy to hear someone else say the third phase. So what did you think about that one, Tom?
Well, this guy is a really, his message is timely and it's accurate. And I think what happens, Mike, in society is that aging is sometimes, if not most of the time, looked at with such negativity. Mm-hmm. And he's done a ton of research, being the doctor that he is, on perceptions of aging. And he has kind of a talk show circuit that he's been going out and preaching his message that basically says what you and I have advocated here on Boomermale.com for almost the last year. And that is the third act can be a magnificent time of your life, if not the best time of your life.
Right.
In spite of our age, in spite of some of the infirmities that come our way, we have this wisdom. And he says you cannot discount how important that is. And part of also is the fact that part of his talk is that so many people end up buying into the fact that, they're old and therefore they're incapable because society has spoon-fed them so much of this crap for a long time, for decades.
Right. I was impressed with the fact you talked about the self-fulfilling prophecy leading to isolation, loneliness, and lack of autonomy. That you essentially infantilize yourself, or other people infantilize you for you, which is not real great. And you end up isolated and lonely, and you do that because you think that that's what you're supposed to do, and it's like this cycle, this loop you get into.
Yeah. He basically says, and this is kind of a quote from the article that we'll certainly have a link on our site for you guys to read from the Washington Post, but he says this very simply. He says, old and young are two distinct times of life, neither one better or worse than the other. He talks about the different ways brains process information and foster creativity at different times of life. The young are more literal and mathematical. The old are better at improvisation and making associations. And, there was a cool story, an anecdotal story where he went into, we call them, we've grown up hearing nursing home or rest home or whatever you want to use it.
Right.
Whatever term you want to use to describe that. But basically he went into this place, and I can't remember what part of the country it was. That doesn't really make the difference, but he took out all the wheelchairs. He took out all the wheelchairs.
Being the director of the place, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they wanted to see how people would respond. And it was amazing how people figured out a way to get around. They were more, they felt more in control of their lives. And as a result, they had a different attitude about what they were doing and how they perceived their life. So this is an awesome article for everybody. Anybody that's listening to this should give this a read. he's an amazing guy, and we will hear more about this. So
Yeah, what I particularly liked about him was the fact that he introduced some level of chaos into the nursing home atmosphere. He brought in some pets. It's counted in the article. They count, how many pets, how many dogs, how many cats, blah 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 blah. They even brought in chickens. I mean, talk about wild animals. They brought in chickens.
I love
And
that. Yeah.
And they also brought in plants and things, and they took what was a sterile atmosphere, a sterile environment, and brought in chaos, invited chaos in, and create chaos. And they found that people were leaving their rooms more often. They were out interacting more often. They're, still old, no question about that. I mean, you don't change the physical situation, but there was more interaction. People who hadn't talked before or hadn't shared anything before were then talking and sharing with other folks. And you're right, actually, people started to turn in their wheelchairs. They weren't using them anymore because they'd figured out, I only need to walk to here, and then I can sit down and talk to some friends, and then I walk over there. And they actually got rid of the wheelchairs because it didn't make any sense any longer.
Yep.
Absolutely no sense. I was very impressed with that whole thing. It's called the Eden Alternative. It was the Eden Alternative, and you bring in all these animals and plants and pretty crazy stuff. The Wall Street Journal said that he's one of America's top 10 innovators, and the Wall Street Journal doesn't hand out much to anybody unless they're big capitalists making lots of money. So for them to talk about a doctor that way is pretty incredible.
Well, he truly is a social visionary. I mean, if you get into the real kind of language of the day, that's really what. And he says his change to get people to think this way probably will not happen completely in his lifetime, but he feels it needs to be started. That's why he's traveling the country. He kind of this speech that he gives, they liken it to a TED Talk, which most of you guys know or have listened to. And anyway, something to take a look at the link we've got on the site and read it, and let's get back to us. Let us know what you guys think. I think both Mike and I found it incredibly informative and actually quite inspiring. So check it out.
Yeah, it was great. It was really good. Now, along the same kind of lines, you posted a story about 5 timeless ways to turn your life around at any age. And, there were some similar thoughts in there by a much younger couple, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is from markandangel.com, and it's this husband and wife team that are in their 30s that have some incredibly wise advice. And 5 timeless ways to turn your life around at any age. And I'm just going to highlight the last 2, which are number 4 and number 5. And number 4 is a really important one that both you and I came up with independent of each other of how important that is for us. And that is simply embrace uncertainty. Embrace uncertainty. And they basically say a related skill to doing hard things, which is one of the other things that they talk about, is thriving in uncertainty. Starting a business, for example, is a remarkable thing to do. But if you're scared of uncertainty, you'll skip it. But if you can be okay with not knowing, you open yourself up to an endless pool of possibilities. And I think in uncertainty, we live it every day, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. We don't know if we're going to wake up the next day, let alone be here for the next hour. We don't know what's going to happen to people in our lives. We don't know about our jobs. I mean, there's some uncertainty that we live with every day, and it's okay, So they're really advocating embrace this, and it's a great way to frame things.
Yeah, Tom, that whole thing around uncertainty is real interesting. I think a lot of people, well, let's face it, we all hesitate with change. Change is difficult, and it causes us to rethink what we do. We have to break patterns. We have to do new things. We have to be inventive. Change is not easy. That's probably a better way to put it. Change is not easy. At the same time, change is really important, because if we don't have change, then we don't have opportunity. And that's really the way that I've always looked at it. I mean, I worked for a number of different companies, one of which was in the technology field,
Mm-hmm.
and your job changed.
Oh, yeah.
You literally were exposed to a lot of change because technology came in, it was introduced. The end of the plan said when it was going to be replaced and when some new change would come, and it might be new technology, it might be a whole new idea. And you had to deal with that. Along with it, the unwritten rule was you could spend about 2 years in any job you did inside the company. And there's a company with 100,000 people basically working there. And you had to change your job about every 2 to 3 years. 2 years was kind of what they wanted you to be there for. But past that, they wanted you to move on. So literally at 18 months to 24 months, you were actively looking for another opportunity. And they tried to push that because new people walking into a new group would bring in new ideas.
Yeah.
And they liked that to happen. So there was a constant flow of people through a group that would move a product forward, would move a product line forward, would bring things out, build more ideas, bring fresh air into an area. And they figured 2 years, 2.5 years was about right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the kind of thing that you had to embrace that change.
And Mike, that's part of the innovation process. That's just the way things are in technology. You're constantly innovating, and change is constant. That's all there is to it. So
yeah, but it's hard to live with, and you have to embrace it. I mean, you really have to say, I'm going to be the change.
Right.
I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to move, and you have to decide that that's the thing you want to do.
I agree with you.
Difficult. People. Now, you had something else you wanted to point out in here.
Yeah, so the other one of the 5 that we talked about is actually the last one, and it basically says build and nurture quality relationships. And they say there are right people and wrong people for you. Yeah, we all know that. There are fake people, and then there are those who are true friends and sincere companions on your path. There are people who take the heart out of you and those who put it back. You have the choice of who to spend time with. And this is such a really important thing too. You sometimes have to look around and make sure that you've got good people in your lives, because there is nothing that'll suck your energy dry than somebody negative in your life. And, that's happened to all of us. We tend to, we sometimes tend to let people hang on too long that are taking too much from us and not letting us live really strong, fulfilled, high energy lives. And we all want high energy to do the things that we really care about. So I had the anecdote here is that I was at this celebration of life service yesterday for my first ad agency boss, and Chan was 94 years old. He passed away at 94. Talk about a nice, rich life. Had a wonderful second wife. They had a loving relationship, an awesome daughter who lives in Seattle.
Yep.
And, he always had the right people around him. And he had a lot of people that loved him and had some amazing tributes. I gave my tribute of him because I've known him for I've known him for 40 years, nearly 40 years. I met him when I was 24 years old. And he was such an inspiration, and he loved being around younger people because he thought of himself as one. It's back to what we were talking about just a little bit ago on the Washington Post article. And you surround yourself with the right people, and you can get that energy. You don't have to look at yourself as an old guy. You're a young person, maybe in an old guy's body, whatever but you've got a lot of youthful thinking if you allow yourself to think that way. That's all about it. And it all begins in the mind, as we've talked about many, many times. Everything that happens in your life all begins on what you think about right here. So anyway, this is a great article. I would definitely recommend you guys go take a look at it. It's on the Boomermale.com site, and let us know what you think after you've read it. So that is it. Yeah.
Excuse me, I've had a few sneezes. Fortunately, I've been able to hit the mute button quickly enough.
Okay.
But yeah,
sorry to hear them.
No, didn't blow your ears out. So yesterday, you and I had a real nice opportunity to go and take a quick look at the auto show.
Total
blast.
Total
sneeze again.
Total blast at the auto show yesterday.
Absolutely, a lot of fun.
So we got to look at the 2016 models, and you're going to see a little video later on the site that kind of we looked at some very cool new pieces of automotive technology, wizardry, and artistry, and we had fun walking around, seeing Porsches. We saw one that was, of course, that's one of my favorites. 182,000 was this particular model. 182, probably chump change for the majority of you guys out there listening. And
not my bank account.
Well, not in yours and mine, but probably our guys that are listening, I know for certain. So this car, 182,000. It had 540 horsepower. It went from 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds, and that was faster than the Ferrari, which we saw also on our journey through the day. We saw a really cool Lexus RX 350, which I absolutely love. New styling, beautiful car. I mean, I'm an SUV guy, and you are too, and I'd love that car, you know. So if we'd won that Powerball ticket, you know, a couple of weeks ago, that was, I don't know, 700 million or whatever the hell it was, 1 billion, I guess it was.
Yeah,
you and I could have put both of those in our garages real nicely, you know, and not be excessive about it.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, I had a great time. I felt like I was 15 again, Mike. I remember because that was my very first Portland Auto Show that I saw with some buddies in high school. And I just got this surge, you know, 40 some years, almost 50 years later. What a great feeling it is to go out and see what's available. And you saw all kinds of people smiling, all various ages, kids, older folks, retired folks, husband and wives, guys by themselves, just kind of smiling, you know, going around and seeing what's out there. So,
yeah. Now, I actually, you know, we're in the Northwest here, so we see a lot of different kinds of cars than you see in a lot of other parts of the country, California and things like that. You know, the big cars around here, probably I don't know. Probably, I'm going to guess one of the number one cars around here is the Subaru of any sort.
It is.
Everybody loves that all-wheel drive.
Sold. Yeah, a lot here.
You know, the ability to get up to the ski slopes, you know, manage the crummy roads that we have. You know, the Subaru does really well around here. And Honda's come along with the Pilot and the CR-V. CR-V is a big seller around here, absolutely a big seller around here. So are some of the other small utilities. I happen to own one. I own a 2003 Honda Element. I'm kind of tall. You can't tell that while I'm sitting down, but I bought it because it's got headroom. I can actually sit inside the car and sit up, which is comfortable, and it's got a lot of leg room, which I like. But they brought out this thing called an HR-V that they've been pushing. Honda did an HR-V that they've been pushing on the television around here. They've been talking about it. They've had ads in the papers and whatever else. And I couldn't figure out what the thing was. And then yesterday we saw it. And it's basically just a CR-V body, a little smaller, and put on top of a station wagon platform that's short. It doesn't sit up quite as high or anything else. You know, nice car and everything else, but it didn't quite live up to its press. And that Porsche 911S Turbo that you were standing next to and enjoying yesterday, and we've got video of you with that car, in tomato red, by the way.
Oh yeah.
You looked like you were having a good time. That was something that would fulfill your dreams. Versus, I think the HR-V would be a little, well, it wouldn't fulfill the dream.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of saying it. It's a great car, but that's not on my dream, you know, scale. So
you also looked good in another red car, and that was the convertible BMW. I could see you. You looked like, you know, you were ready to go, ready to drive off in that thing. That looks like it'd be a lot of fun. Although around here, probably only about 3 months out of the year when it's actually dry and you can keep the top down and enjoy the warmth too, because, you know, it's a little warmer at that time of year.
Yeah.
The other thing that kind of surprised me was the amount of activity around the trucks. And we're talking, you know, full-size trucks. The F-150 was actually, well, they had kids all over the truck. They had kids climbing all over the truck. It was pretty funny. Yeah. That, you know, the F-150 was that way. The Chevy trucks, we saw those. They looked really nice. We went back and saw some of the Dodge trucks, the Ram, stuff like that. There was a lot of activity around those, and I'm wondering if this current $2 a gallon gas, some places I understand it's down to $1.75 or something. Other places it's probably still $2.50, but it's much lower than it was a couple of years ago at $4 a gallon.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm wondering if that's making a lot of sense, and if we're going to see, pretty good sales of trucks like that over the next month or two as we see the prices kind of settle where they are right now. And then, what are you left with in summer when the prices go up? Because they always do.
Right. For you guys, I think there's a lot of truth to that, Mike. I think they will see a lot of sales. And, for you guys that are here in Portland, the show runs through Sunday. Today is Saturday as we're recording this. So we don't get anything out of it, but I think you guys would if you go down in terms of compensation. If you guys go down and take a look, it's a lot of fun. There are some beautiful Ferraris. There are some really nice Maseratis.
A lot of Maseratis. I was surprised.
I was surprised how many Maseratis were there as well. So anyway, check it out. It's a kick. And one thing I forgot to remind you guys about is that we have 3 blog posts that are in the last year on the history of 3 great cars. And it's on the Jag XK series. Talks about the legacy and heritage of that car and the various models. Same with the Porsche, beginning back with the early Speedster. And then we also have the great American classic sports car, the Corvette. And we do have some, we will have some shots of the Corvette, by the way, when you see the video posted on our site here later this week. So anyway, it's fascinating history. And for you car guys in particular, I think you'll really enjoy some of the history and a lot more specs and a lot more numbers and, things that make you really appreciate those cars and the lineage of them. So check it out.
Yeah, definitely. It was good. And we did get to see the Corvette, although there were 2 of them at the show. And one of them was black, very glossy black. And it was filled with people. I mean, the people crowded around it. It looked like it was midnight at the airport with all the incoming people crowded around the baggage counter trying to get their bags and leave as quick as possible. I mean, you could hardly see the car. There were so many bodies around it. It was crazy, just crazy. Speaking of bodies all over the place, we got Super Bowl 50 coming up.
Wow, what about that? Think about that. Okay, so here's
50 years.
Hard to believe 50 years. We've been alive for all 50. That's just amazing. And that's the truth.
That's true. That's true.
And I am shocked at Denver beating New England. They are a much better team than I've given them credit for. And I think I picked New England to win that game. We talked about it last week.
You did.
But they have a stellar defense, and that is the same case with the Panthers, who absolutely annihilated, Arizona. The Cardinals. They just beat them in every phase of the game. I think this is going to be an interesting game, Mike, and we could call. Next week is we'll be doing a show here next Friday, so we'll pick our winners at that point because the game is a week from tomorrow, Sunday, and that it will be February 7th, I believe. Anyway, I think it's going to be a defensive game, if you can believe that. As powerful as Carolina is, and prolific with Cam Newton and our buddy Jonathan Stewart, our U of O grad, and a couple other players, Ed Dixon, who's also a U of O guy.
Right.
They also, Denver has a great defensive back who also played at U of O, who also stars, and that's TJ Ward. So I think it's going to be an exciting game. I know that there's going to be this, the classic Peyton Manning's possibly his last rodeo, as he called it. At 39 years old, he's leading this team. And then you got Cam Newton at 26 years. I mean, it's a kind of a great storyline that, the veteran guy that's banged up, ready to go out, who's been the most prolific passer in the history of the NFL. And you got this young guy, Cam Newton, who's 260 pounds at 6'4", whatever he is, who's almost unstoppable, whether he's running or throwing the ball. I think it's going to be an awesome game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout at this point. And I'll give you my pick next week. I've got to just think
Okay.
about a little bit more about it. So
Okay. So next week we'll do the picks. Now, you know, I think I went with you last week on the choice of the Patriots. I don't quite remember,
yeah,
but I think I did go with you on that one. And you know, it was hard because I'm not a Denver fan. I'm not a Denver fan. Yeah, I think it has something to do with that orange. But
yeah.
in case for people who don't know, the Beavers, the opponents, the nemesis of the Ducks, they're in orange and black.
Arch rival.
I always have arch rivals. I always have a tough time going with orange.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Tom Brady is on the Patriots, and I'm not a big Brady fan. I know some people are, and they love him, and that's great. More power to you. But yeah, so I was a little conflicted, but I believe I went with you on that. And lo and behold, what breaks down but the Microsoft Surface pads? And actually, it wasn't the pads that broke down. It was the network, which is even worse. So, gee, why would the network break down there? And why would it happen? You know, so the interesting part was the poor Patriots had tricks played on them with the network breaking down for, I don't know, it only went on for about, I don't know, 3-4 plays, something like that. But it was a big deal. There was no deflate gate. There was, instead of deflate gate, we had network gate. So hopefully nothing comes out of that. I don't think it will. Yeah. Wi-Fi networks go down all the time. We all know that. Go for coffee at Starbucks, and you know sometimes you can't get through at all.
Exactly.
But that was kind of interesting, and it made a big story actually in the tech scene, because the first time that all the news outlets figured out that those were actually Microsoft Surface pads and not iPads. Up till this point in time, they've been calling them iPads. So it was very, very interesting. Odd little trip, I know, off to the side there, but
no, that's cool.
Yeah, definitely. Now, one thing to mention. We have a very highly rated story on Joe Namath and how he predicted the win for the Jets in Super Bowl III, right? Super Bowl III.
Super Bowl III. Broadway Joe. Yeah.
A lot of people have listened to that story.
They have.
Any of you listening right now, if you haven't heard it, go to the website. Check out that story, or if you're using iTunes or Stitcher, or you're going to Hipcast, either one of those things, go to that story and listen to that story, because a lot of people have liked that. It's a good story, and
it's a great story.
Very, very interesting. Yeah, there's the underdog, and they win. You know, he didn't get cocky. He said, "No, I wasn't cocky. I was just mad."
Yeah.
And so that helped a lot.
Yep.
Let's see. I think we're done with the Super Bowl. We've got some stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks here. We got Valentine's Day on Sunday, February 14th. Now, Tom, I've been married for, well, gee, it's going to come on 29 years now. So I'm getting close to 30 years of marriage.
Yep.
I kind of have my Valentine's Day routine down. Hopefully I do the right things. I'm sure I'm not as exciting as I should be, but that's life. But you're single. Now, do you have any good single boomer male advice on February 14th? What do you do for Valentine's Day?
Well, so this year, my gal, I haven't told her this yet, but I'm going to make dinner for her. So it's a Sunday evening, so it's the day before work day. So there'll still probably be, there'll be a glass of wine or some sparkling that'll certainly be shared. But I've got to think ahead that week. So that's the week after this coming one, actually, that I need to get out and I need to get an appropriate gift and or card and or both. So I highly suggest that, fellas. And then I'm going to probably do, maybe get like 6 roses or something a little more significant versus the standard dozen or 13, I think is what they kind of offer. Have those for her as well. So you got to be thinking ahead, because it's a weird day, and don't get caught, you guys. When I was married, I was really up against the gun a couple times. Unfortunately, I was able to bail, but this gal right now I definitely don't want to screw that up. And women take
Yeah.
these things very seriously. I mean,
They do. There's 2 days of the year that are very, very dangerous. Possibly 3, actually, when you get down to it. But 2 days that are very dangerous. That's New Year's Eve and Valentine's Day, because the girls, they all build that up as a big thing in their lives, and it's a big. Now we're a little luckier than some as far as men, because we're a little bit older. But the younger crowd, boy, do they feel that whole "get me the ring." Where's
lots of
the ring?
pressure.
Lots of pressure. And Christmas Day is the other one. Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. That's the other one where there's a lot of pressure on that. And
not Mother's Day, but their birthday as well. So of course that's another big one.
That's true.
Yeah, there are many.
Don't forget birthdays. I haven't forgotten birthdays.
That's good.
I've stayed good on that.
That's why you're still married 29 years, almost 29 years later, Mike. So.
Yeah, well, another month, we'll see. Who knows? She could change her mind in the next month, and 29 years is gone.
No, I don't think that's going to be happening. I know Wendy too well. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. And then on February 15th, we got the President's Day holiday coming up. So if you're going to be doing any kind of business, specifically government business, permits, things like that, don't count on doing it on the 15th, because everything will be shut down.
Yeah. Yep.
So what else do you have to add, Tom? Do we have anything else?
I got one simple thing I'm going to close with here, Mike. And this again is back to Chan's celebration of life yesterday. And I went up and I talked about 3 things that he really brought to everything in his life. And here's the one that I think is one of the greatest ones for all our guys out here. I think this is for everybody basically. And I've tried to, imbue this philosophy with my sons, but very simply, the idea is always keep a sense of humor going in your life. Chan had a way to look at things, even some of the worst business news we'd get, or something that might happen personally with his health, or something going on in his family. He always found a way to bring humor back into it. And you know what? If you don't have humor, in all honesty, life is going to be an awful difficult, path to continue on. It really is. So all I ask you guys is just think about that over the next week. Do you have enough humor in your life? Can you laugh at yourself occasionally? It's amazing what that can do for you, and how you are then viewed by other people around you. But most importantly, how you view yourself. That's basically
true.
Yep.
That's true. Good thoughts. And that was really nice of you. That was a good perspective to take at Chan's memorial. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Good deal. Well, if there's nothing further, I want to remind people that we really enjoyed the fact that we gained 50% of listeners, or went 50% above where we were in listeners over the last month. Is just incredible, and we really appreciate it. And we ask all of you, if you like the podcast, please send that on to a friend. Have a friend check it out. We'd love to have more people subscribe to the podcast.
Absolutely.
We also have an announcement probably coming next week of a new way to get the podcast and a new way to view it or listen to it. So we'll have that to talk about as well. Let's see. So you can keep up to date with all the interviews that we have, all the stories, and you can get daily Boomermale.com updates if you visit Boomermale.com and click on the sign up button in the right hand sidebar. What that does is that definitely signs you up to get notification that these things are new, that different things are coming. We've got a free copy of the 51 Life Lessons Every Boomer Male Should Have Learned by Now book, 112 pages, totally free in PDF format on the website. Please go ahead and get that. We'd love for you to have that. Along with that, if you want, you can get a copy for Kindle from Amazon, and you can also get a really nice soft cover print version from Amazon. It's $8.51, correct?
$9.51 for the Kindle version. $9.51, and then the soft cover, which you just talked about, which is a beautiful piece I've just read from, that is at $17.51 on CreateSpace.
Great. So, hey, we thank you all for joining us. You can find us on your favorite podcast source, iTunes, Stitcher, any one of the other ones. We are also launch partners with the upcoming Google Music podcast, and I don't have a date for when that's going to happen, but that should be soon. And you can see our website for details. We'll keep track of how that moves along. You can also catch us on Facebook as Boomermale and on Twitter as @Boomermale. All one word, both cases. And just tell us if you want to see us on other social media. We certainly will expand that as makes sense. Lastly, Tom, we have our 3 maxims. Why don't you carry it out?
Hey, Mike, just before we get to the 3 maxims, I just want to echo what you said. And that is, guys, we truly appreciate the listenership. And as Mike said, we're up over 300 now on an average day. And it's just awesome. So we again, thank you very much from both Mike and I. And so, I just want to close by saying, be well, do well, live well. And until next time, happy trails, guys.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to turn the broadcast off here in a minute. Let's see here. I guess I'll just hit the button.